Today, I'm talking about net neutrality. Now, network neutrality is basically allows you and everybody else in countries that don't have it already to visit whatever site they want on the internet. Now, the fact that other countries already have this before the United States struck it down is important. I'll explain that later. Anyways, so recently the United States has struck this network neutrality down. Now, what this means is now internet providers can censor and limit what sites, or can censor sites or parts, and limit what sites users go to. Now, this may or may not last. If it does, other countries will probably follow, and it may even become worldwide. Now, some countries already have that, and I'll get to that later, but this is mostly the work of phone companies, cable like Verizon and AT&T, internet providers, to get more money out of consumers. Now, if they don't already have enough money, they already have plenty of money and they don't need more. Now, the pictures are randomized, but since it's on the Netflix picture, I'm going to talk about Netflix. Now, let's say Time Warner Cable decides that they don't want people to watch Netflix. Well, this means they can essentially block it out. Now, the thing about this is they don't have to give I don't believe they have to give notification to people. Now, people who already have Netflix can no longer deactivate their account, which is extremely unfair to the people who do already have it. This affects nearly everything on the internet. Now, what else you probably won't be able to do is find information, whether it be on, whether it be just information on net neutrality or information on, like, if a student's doing a research paper, does not matter. You will be limited in the information you can find on the internet from now on. Also, that would also mean that information on other companies that may not limit as much, or may limit the same amount but for less, you can no longer get to. You can no longer get that information through the internet, because your internet provider will most likely block those sites so that you cannot find the prices, you cannot do anything with anybody else, unless you sign up with them first. Now, obviously, you can only have one internet provider at the time, otherwise the cost will be a little overwhelming. This also means, okay, well, let me get to the most important part. Consumers need to fight back. Now, it's not just consumers that will be fighting. Microsoft, Sony, Apple, Google, all those companies will be fighting for net neutrality because they rely on the internet enough that if somebody blocks them, they lose a lot of money. If, let's say, CenturyLink blocks Apple, anything to do with Apple, nobody will be able to get apps, no iTunes anymore, nothing. If you already have iTunes downloaded, it's a download and you will be able to have it on your computer, but you will not be able to go to the store because it'll be blocked. And see, Steam, Valve will probably fight so that Steam can stay. Maybe they'll just fight for themselves. I don't know. Also, the biggest problem with me about this is the fact that the Supreme Court has not yet ruled it unconstitutional. Because after the internet was first started, the Supreme Court ruled that the government is trying to protect children, and so by doing something very similar, not allowing the internet providers to limit things, but limiting sites that they don't want children to go to. But the Supreme Court said that's unconstitutional because the First Amendment right says that adults should be able to go to what sites they want to. Now, if they tried that again, obviously, the Supreme Court may or may not, and I wouldn't really care if they blocked those types of sites. However, this affects everybody in the United States who has internet, which means it's breaking the First Amendment right of everybody who uses the internet in the United States. The Supreme Court has not yet said that it's unconstitutional, and they probably won't. That is unacceptable simply because it has been precedented. Network neutrality itself is unacceptable to most people. However, the Supreme Court not ruling on it is even worse. Now, I'm not going to talk about the Supreme Court too much, and now I'm going to get into politics. Now, I'm not going to try to rant on this part too much, but if you think about how much has been good for the country recently, the last two things passed, or the only two things that I know of that have been passed this year, do not benefit the country in any way. Obamacare and network neutrality being struck down do not benefit our country, because it gives network neutrality gives the big companies money, and Obamacare takes money from the poor. They both take money from the people, the common American. So, it's nothing good for the country. Now, personally, I believe the reason that nothing has been done good is because of political parties. Now, many people, whether you live in the United States or not, I'd hope that if you do live in the United States, you know of George Washington. Many people know of him. Well, see, he wasn't affiliated with a political party, and he's the only president so far that hasn't been. Now, he said beware of what happens, essentially, to put it into modern terms, beware of what happens with political parties. He knew that if there were political parties in our country, that not much in the future would get done. He knew it, and he said it, but no one heeded his warning. And this is why the country is the way it is. Now, that's where I'm going to end this, after this explanation, and see, Congress, there's Democrats and Republicans, obviously, but they can't agree on anything. And most voters, vote for their party, even if they don't like the candidate. So that's where I'm going to end this. I can put this into an entirely another video, and I probably will. But, so, network neutrality, Microsoft, and all those companies, Skype maybe even, well, Skype, Microsoft, eBay, Amazon, they'll be fighting because, maybe not eBay, but Amazon I'm sure will, because of what they have, and it's all internet relied. Companies like Walmart, GameStop that have stores may or may not, I don't know, they probably won't be blocked out anyways, but it's unacceptable considering that this breaks amendment rights. The First Amendment, you know, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, but it doesn't appear that it is anymore. Considering that this law is unconstitutional, and I suppose that's not for me to decide, but considering that it has been precedented that because the government was trying to limit everything, they said that it can only be limited in schools and the like. Stuff where children will be accessing the internet or on, filters. But those aren't government filters. Now, right now, okay, network neutrality recently got struck down in the United States. Now, this United States was not the first company to go, or country to go without network neutrality. In fact, many communist countries, or many countries that, many Asian countries, because that's where the Middle East is, and many countries that do not like America, that are enemies of America, have blocked anything from the United States, anything American at all. North Korea, countries like that, China probably, Middle Eastern countries like that, possibly even Russia. I'm not sure about Russia anymore now that they're democratic and they're no longer communist, but mostly communist and Middle Eastern countries, which I think some of them are, but those have been the countries that have network neutrality. Now, the communist countries, the government is limiting it. Now, the reason the government limits that is because the government in a communist country owns everything. Except its people. Everything. Now, the point was, it developed from socialism, the point of it was to no more poverty. However, obviously, since it turned into communism, it doesn't exactly work out all the way. Now, there's still plenty of things that could happen. It might not last, but I think if it does, European countries, maybe Russia, all of Russia, the Asian part as well, European countries and Russia will probably follow behind the United States and possibly Canada. Canada seems to know about this stuff a bit better, so I think they might be safe. And I don't know, though. I haven't been to Canada. Countries that have a lot of internet usage will definitely follow if the United States keeps this for more than 5 years. I think that other countries will follow. I'm hoping that for the next 5 years that they won't. However, it's very possible. Now, boycotting might not be the best idea, but it would work. Now, I realize the internet is a huge part to many people's lives, and some of them have jobs on the internet, but with network neutrality, that's just creating more unemployment because small websites will be losing money and eventually going out of business. And also, if YouTube is blocked by many of the mainstream providers, then many YouTubers that, do it for money will also lose their jobs. We're not in a good situation, and as American people, we have to fight. Even if we don't make a difference, boycotting will be effective, I promise. I'll make a part 2 to this.